We begin with Democrats coming out swinging on investigating Trump. Adam Schiff making it official with a new framework that he's announced here tonight for a sweeping investigation of Trump, Russia, and, of course, the money trail. Congressman Schiff announced that Dems will use subpoena power to probe coordination between Russia and Trump. Also probing the scary but potentially legal scenario where foreign actors hold financial leverage over Trump or his family, including potential, quote, foreign exploitation, and the House looking to probe obstruction and lies by Trump's team. That's a point Schiff underscored today by noting Dems are giving Russia interview evidence over to Mueller.
The special counsel's office, the Department of Justice, and its elements will now have access to those transcripts for any purpose which will facilitate justice.
That's the news. 73 different individuals have testified before the committee already. Mueller may have had versions of these transcripts because he's already indicted 2 people for lying in interviews. Michael Cohen, who pled guilty. We'll talk to the Intel Committee again, rescheduled for later this month, and then Roger Stone, who's pleaded not guilty. Now, Democrats on the same committee have told us they also think, in addition to that, at least 2 other people criminally lied as well.
Roger Stone is not the only one that lied to Congress.
I have reasonable belief that Mr. Prince was not completely candid with the committee.
You have knowledge of other individuals that you think, by this standard, would also be charged?
Yes, I do.
Can you name any of them?
I'm not going to.
Are there more than 2?
There may be 2.
There may be 2. The issue could come up later this week when Democrats also grill Donald Trump's acting attorney general, who is sure to be asked about, among other things, Donald Trump's odd and controversial attempt to undercut open investigations last night.
If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way.
Today, Democrats say it actually does work that way.
His effort to discourage any meaningful oversight of the administration, that's a non-starter. We are not going to be intimidated or threatened by the president.
He cannot escape, nor should any president escape congressional oversight.
We're all under scrutiny, and we all have to be accountable. And it's a new day.
In a moment, I'll be joined by Congressman Eric Swalwell from the Intelligence Committee on all of this. First, I want to bring in our panel of experts: New York Times columnist Michelle Goldberg, former federal prosecutor John Flannery, who's been special counsel to 3 different congressional investigations, and former federal prosecutor Paul Butler, who's worked on public corruption and is a professor at Georgetown. Good evening to all of you. Paul, what do you think of the fierce pushback to Donald Trump's claim last night?
Donald Trump seems to think that presidential harassment, by another name, it's what we call congressional oversight. It's part of our constitutional democracy, a system of checks and balances. It's why we have President Trump and not King Trump. We have co-equal branches of government, and if the president doesn't know that now, he's about to find out from Robert Mueller and from the newly Democratic House, which will exercise its power to oversee the executive in a way that the Republicans did not when they controlled Congress.
Michelle, sometimes as a writer, you reach for the obvious comparison because it's true. And the Nixon-Trump comparison has existed for a while. But you look at the attempt of 2 presidents suffering under criminal investigations, clearly canny individuals in their own way, thinking they can use the State of the Union to will into being what they hope. Nixon famously saying that there would be a deadline for Watergate. You don't get to decide that when you're the subject. Take a look at the comparisons for your analysis.
I believe the time has come to bring that investigation and the other investigations of this matter to an end. 1 year of Watergate is enough.
If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way.
I I mean, the similarities are clear, but I think there's a significant difference, too, which is that without saying anything to minimize Nixon's criminality, he wasn't up there issuing a threat, right? I mean, that was sort of like what Trump did was sort of like gangster Nixon, right? It was like, nice country you've got there. I mean, honestly, if there's going to be peace and legislation, you have to drop these investigations. I know that's not exactly how he put it, but that was the gist of it, right? So basically sort of trying to extort the United States Congress out of meaningful oversight?
Well, it's sort of like a protest march. I mean, protesters will sometimes say no justice, no peace.
Right, but they're not the president.
They're radicals, banging on the door. This is the sitting president of the United States with all of that power. When that person says no peace, that to your point, is quite ominous.
That's completely shocking. And, I think it just goes to show, how far we've sunk in under 2 years of this presidency, that wasn't the headline coming out of this State of the Union, right? Sort of Trump threatening that if he's subject to normal oversight, he's going to do some sort of, extra legal, war. Who knows what he's threatening? But the very fact that he made this gangster-like threat was something that everybody sort of rolled their eyes at because we've become so inured to gangster-like behavior and lawlessness.
Well, and John, Michelle is using the word gangster.
Yes.
I'm sure you remember a student of other criminal conduct, Master P, who said, is there heaven for a gangster? Is there heaven for a gangster? The implication being there may not be, depending on what the gangster's done, John.
Evil is a gangster's heaven, and this guy is going to celebrate his heaven, I think. The day is coming.